The jury in the subway chokehold trial deadlocked.
They sent 2 notes today saying they could not agree on the top charge against Daniel Penny, manslaughter in the 2nd degree, and the charge was dismissed by the judge. Alice Gaynor has been inside the courtroom during the entire trial. She's live outside the courthouse tonight. And Alice, was there any reaction from the jurors when the count was dismissed?
I looked over at the jury as the judge was telling them this. No visible reaction from any of them. I also looked over and I saw Jordan Neely's father put his head down and keep it there for a couple of minutes. As you mentioned this morning, the jury sent a note saying they were unable to reach a unanimous decision on count 1, manslaughter in the 2nd degree. After they sent the first note this morning, the judge ordered them back to continue deliberations. They sent a second note this afternoon saying they were still deadlocked. The defense wanted a mistrial. Prosecutors moved to dismiss the top charge so that the jury could move on to count 2, criminally negligent homicide, the lesser charge. The judge granted that despite the objection of Penny's attorneys. The judge told the jury, quote, manslaughter in the 2nd degree is dismissed. What that means is you are now free to consider count 2. Whether that makes any difference or not, I have no idea. He then sent the jury home for the day. They're going to take the weekend, and Monday they will start things anew. They will deliberate on that lesser charge. Now, had he been convicted on the top charge, he was facing up to 15 years behind bars. If convicted on the lesser charge, the maximum penalty is up to 4 years behind bars. Cindy and Dick?
I know everybody likes to get into the mind of the jurors, but we really don't know what they're thinking. From the notes that they had been sending, did they give any clues as to what the deadlock might have been in that count 1?
So it came as it was no surprise to people who've been observing the trial, because even as the judge pointed out, the jurors deliberated for some time before sending any kind of note. But once they started sending notes, it was obvious they were stuck on something. Some of the things they wanted to rewatch twice. Cell phone video of the incident. They wanted to rewatch Daniel Penny's voluntary police station interview, the body cam videos of responding police officers. They wanted readback of some of the cross-examination of the medical examiner who performed Jordan Neely's autopsy. All of this to say it was very clear at some point they were stuck and trying to get through it. But as you saw, they sent those 2 notes today and they just could not come to a unanimous decision. So Monday, we will see if they come to any sort of unanimous decision on that lesser charge, which is criminally negligent homicide.
All right, Alice Gaynor live in Lower Manhattan. Alice, thank you. And joining us for more on the judge's decision today is criminal defense and civil rights lawyer Mayo Bartlett.
Ms. Bartlett, thank you for joining us. Now that we heard Alice, count 1 is dismissed. We go to criminally negligent homicide. And perhaps the crucial question, what is the difference between those 2 charges?
Well, one of them, you have a different frame of mind. So with the recklessness, it's more or less that you knew or should have known that what you were going to do could cause someone's death. And given the circumstances, reasonable minds can certainly differ when it comes to that, as well as when it comes to the criminally negligent homicide. When it comes to the criminally negligent homicide, it's more than simply mere negligence like having an automobile accident. It's negligence where your conduct is of such a magnitude that a reasonable person would know that it could cause the death of another person. So here the question is going to be, what was the conduct of Mr. Penny? How long did it last? Did it need to last that long? When you look at Mr. Neely, what threat was Mr. Neely posing to people? And there are several things that a jury would consider. I think that first would be what was Mr. Neely doing before he had contact with Mr. Penny, but then what happened immediately thereafter? And is he continuing to engage in any conduct? Does he appear to be a threat? Are there other people engaged, as there were here? You had a number of other people holding Mr. Neely, who was not a tremendously large person and didn't appear to be struggling at all for several minutes.
Does the jury deadlock on the manslaughter charge? I mean, what was your reaction? Did it give you any insight into how the jury may be leaning on the criminally negligent homicide charge?
Well, I think the manslaughter is a much more difficult charge for a jury to deal with, because at that point, it's not quite intent, which you would have for a murder or an intentional manslaughter, but it's, again, there is a mens rea there where you are taking affirmative steps and that you knew or should have known that what you were going to do was going to cause this person's death. And it seems by all accounts that Mr. Penny responded to deal with someone who was allegedly being disorderly on the train and was perhaps causing other people discomfort, possibly fear. So it wouldn't necessarily be unreasonable for him to get involved at that point. The question is, what are his next steps? What's his action that's being taken? One of the things I'd want to know as a juror would be, what training did he receive in his military career? So was he trained to realize how long it might take to put a person to sleep in a chokehold, and would 6 minutes or 5 minutes even be perhaps excessive?
All right, and it all goes back to the jury on Monday. Mayo Bartlett, criminal defense and civil rights lawyer, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And on our website, you can find our past coverage of the trial, plus a deeper dive into the questions the jury has been asking that lead them to this point. That's all on CBSNewYork.com.